Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and welcome to episode 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Histories. That's right, we're maintaining a steady pace, everything seems to be going good, I want this series to gain some momentum, I have a lot of ideas for what we're going to talk about, so let's just keep it chugging along. Alright, to go over the rules again, number 1, I am afraid of change and scared of pendulums and links. Number 2, do not listen to anything I say for the love of God, you will probably die in a duel. And number 3, I'm just here to entertain. Hacha! And on that entertainment note, I have a little story to tell you that kind of ties into this video. A lot of times when I want to make a video, I usually have a good idea the day before what I'm going to talk about, or the universe tells me otherwise. And today was one of those moments. I get to work this morning. I get there a little early before my manager actually got there to unlock the place, so I'm just hanging out on the sidewalk at the plaza waiting for my manager, and I'm looking out into the parking lot. It's early in the morning. There's not a lot of cars yet. It's a Sunday. Not a lot of people are shopping this early. And I see these two big crows just sitting in the parking lot, and they're gnawing at a dead animal, or maybe somebody's discarded Burger King from the night before, or whatever. They're just gnawing at this food, and they're like yelling at each other. It was like kind of a comedy routine between these two crows, where one would take a bite of the food, and then the other would caw at the other one. And I was thinking it like, you know, they're arguing with each other, like, hey, you took a bigger piece than me. No, I didn't. Caw. No, you didn't. Screw you. Caw. No, I didn't. And it was just this comedy routine. I'm just watching these crows, and it was through watching those large birds that I figured out what I was supposed to talk about today, YATA-GARASU, or more specifically, the YATA-Lock. He looks rather innocent enough, doesn't he? Yes, just a meek little bird. He does the standard thing that all spirit monsters love to do by returning to your hand at the end phase. And that's pretty much it, right? That's it, right? This card is not only one of the first cards that were added to the Forbidden List way back in the yonder years of 2004, this is one of the cards where you have to consider whether or not this was like the reason the Forbidden system even came about. Alright, because you remember, this had to happen at some point. In any sort of competitive card game, you have to have limitations. You can't just allow every card that was ever, printed to be in competitive play, because you're gonna end up with a lot of broken combinations. Well, the YATA-Lock involving YATA-GARASU and this freaking thing was one of the first that you really start to consider. I know, Red Eyes, it's pretty intense. You really start to consider that, you know, this was like such a game-breaking mechanic. They came up with the whole limited, semi-limited, forbidden system because of it, okay? Okay, so first off, I'm going to explain how the YATA-Lock is performed, and if executed successfully, as the name applies, it will completely lock down your opponent from doing anything, including drawing cards, allowing you to just keep pecking at their life points until you win. So first things first, you're gonna have to get your hands on this crow bastard. Now, this was easier said than done, because I believe this was a secret rare back in the day, in the first booster it was released in, so, you know, if you were gonna do this competitively, you'd probably have to spend a lot of money in order to get one. There's been reprints since, and I was pretty damn sure I had a copy, but I looked all over and I couldn't find any YATA-GARASUs in my collection. But you're gonna need one if you're gonna perform this, and it doesn't even need to be in your hand. It has to be in your deck for this to actually work. Then you're gonna want to get an old favorite, Sangan, and we're gonna be having to do an episode on you, buddy. There's a lot of stuff involving Sangan, and Witch of the Black Forest as well. That'll probably be a 2-for episode. Then, another pretty rare card to get your hands on back in the day, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. When a lot of people say this card's name, they omit the Envoy of the End part. You know, they just say Chaos Emperor Dragon. I know it's a long name, guys, I get it, but the Envoy of the End part is the coolest part of the name, alright? So you're gonna have to get your hands on one of these. And also, because of Chaos Emperor's effect, you're gonna require 1 dark and 1 light attributed monster in your graveyard, minimum, for this to work. So let's just assume the field looks like this. Your opponent has some stuff in their hand, has some stuff on the field, some face-up monsters, some set cards. Okay, here's how the YATA-Lock is performed under perfect circumstances, okay? So during your main phase 1, you normal summon Sangan to your side of the field. Then you activate the effect of Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, and you special summon it by removing the 1 light and 1 dark monster in your graveyard. Throw out Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, Now I'm understanding that is kind of tiring to say. Whatever, I'm rolling with it. Okay, then you activate Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End's effect. It destroys everything on the field and everything in either player's hands. Okay, so at this point, you have nothing in your hand, nothing on the field, and your opponent is likewise. However, you had Sangan out, which allows you to do the time-honored effect of summoning any monster with less than 1,500, attack points. Witch of the Black Forest is the one that does 1,500 defense, just wanted to make sure. 1,500 attack from your deck. And just like your Itachi Uchiha or some shit, you have now summoned a crow right to your side of the field. You activate your battle phase and you attack directly with YATA-GARASU. Now YATA-GARASU's only got 200 attack points, so you're not going to be doing a lot of damage. It really kind of is just like a little bird pecking at your, chest a little bit, maybe a little bead of blood, and that's it. However, thanks to YATA-GARASU's effect, whenever it deals battle damage, your opponent skips their next draw phase. You can see where this is going, and, of course, being a spirit monster, and they love to be annoying in their own unique way, it's your opponent's turn, they have nothing on the field, nothing in their hands, and they can't draw a card! You can see why you can see where this is going. So during your next turn, you summon YATA-GARASU again, attack directly, they skip, and you could pretty much just keep this going. You're still drawing cards. You could draw something powerful and just wipe out your opponent, or to just rub salt in that wound even deeper, you can literally just keep throwing out YATA-GARASU every single turn and just slowly but surely peck away your opponent. If they were smart at this point, they would just surrender because there's nothing they could do. And that's where the Yata lock, falls into place. Now, pretty much every card involved in this lock, as you could figure, has either been forbidden, or limited, or been eroded at some point. YATA-GARASU and Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End are both forbidden in some formats, and Sangan has now been eroded, so any card that it special summons cannot activate its effect that turn. So under the new errata of Sangan, even if you were to use all these cards, in just traditional or original format, or whichever one you're actually allowed to use all of them in, you use Sangan's effect, and it summons YATA-GARASU to your side of the field, but you can't activate Yata's effect. So you could still attack directly, but it would only do the 200 damage, and your opponent's, the skipping draw phase shit, that wouldn't happen. So the Yata lock is, essentially dead with that, but there's other ways you can get it done. That's just the most popular way. So, yeah, back in 2004, when players figured this out, that was really one of the first big moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, you realize that there are some cards through certain combinations, you can get these game-breaking OP effects that are just really unfair. Now, there are ways around the Yata lock. For example, when you summon, a Chaos Emperor, when you summon Chaos Emperor, maybe your opponent has a trap card or something that can negate the special summoning. So there are ways around it, but not many, especially back during that time period. So they had to put a lockdown on that pretty quickly. Now, as for its use in the anime, YATA-GARASU did get to see some action during the Virtual World arc, because Noah, also known as Season 0 Kaiba, ran a spirit deck, and so he had, Shinato, King of a Higher Plane, he had Hito Kagusuchi and the Yamata Dragon and everything in his deck, and he also had a YATA-GARASU, but unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see him use. I would have loved that. You know what I would have loved to see? Noah break out the Yata lock against Yugi, and the kicker is that even if he successfully performed the Yata lock on Yugi, Yugi would have still managed to bullshit his way out of it. I could see it now. That, Noah would trigger the Yata lock, he would summon the Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End, wipe out everything, Yugi can't draw any cards, and then Noah would be over there snide and smirking like, ha ha ha, Yugi, I could just keep attacking your life points directly now. You have nothing in your hand, nothing on the field, and you cannot draw a card. And then the anime team, man, they would have invented the most bullshit card ever. It would have been like a card like, haha, Noah, unaware to you when you activated Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End special ability. It sent this random bullshit card I had in my hand to the graveyard. And when that random bullshit card is in my graveyard, after 3 turns, it brings back any monster I want from the graveyard. Or it negates any effect on the field. It was a hand trap before hand traps were a thing. It allows me to, negate or oh no, it allows me to reverse time in the duel or some shit. Like we go 5 turns back and it allows me to stop you before you summoned your YATA-GARASU or your Sangan or whatever. Holy crap. That would have been how it would have went. That would have been great. Yeah, we don't get to see that many lockdowns in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, right? And so right now in the card game, YATA-GARASU is forever hailed as this infamous, forbidding card. Everybody knows about it. It's sort of it's really weird because a lot of times in certain fiction, the raven or the crow is regarded as a harbinger of death. A lot of times you see the crow because the crow is a scavenger. You always see it, I saw it this morning, pecking at some sort of dead animal, or Burger King, same thing really. Or it's on the Grim Reaper's scythe as it's walking through town, or it's hanging out on top of the scarecrows and everything. That's the icon of the crow. And in the card game, it sort of has, it kind of brought on that exact same image because of this Yata lock effect. So everybody knows about it. It's been featured on a few other kinds of card artwork. The most notable one is the Legacy of YATA-GARASU, which is a trap card that allows you to basically... It's essentially just a Jar of Greed if used without your opponent having any spirit monsters on the field. You activate it and you can draw 1 card. If your opponent does happen to have a spirit card on their side of the field, then you can draw 2. So that's cool. And I was going to say spirit monsters are kind of dead in the water, but I looked up on it, and apparently they've been revitalized as of late. Because I remember spirit monsters as being, one of the first few, the ability cards, because it's not necessarily a new type, rather than it's a new ability. And I actually thought, I was thinking, is that the first, ability card we ever got? Because I think that came before Union monsters were a thing, and it is in fact not, because Toon monsters were first. So in the case of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, it was a dragon / toon, and being a toon kind of gave it that inherent effect. And just like with spirit monsters, they had that inherent effect to return to your hand at the end phase of your turn. But they have been brought back. There's a few new ones out there, one of which being in fact Izanagi. So there you go, more Naruto references. Actually, there's going to be one more coming up, because not just with YATA-GARASU, but there is in fact another spirit monster that led to a lockdown play, and that's the first lockdown play I ever actually learned about. Now, back in 2004, I was way into Yu-Gi-Oh! That was actually the year Pyramid of Light came out, and I dragged my dad to go see that, so I was way into Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2004, but keep in mind, I was also 11. So I wasn't going to tournaments and everything. The most thing I ever did back then is, does anyone ever remember a toy store chain called KB Toys? I don't think they're around anymore, most assuredly, since Toys R Us isn't around anymore, but there was this chain of store called KB Toys, and it was in the mall, and every Saturday morning, they would have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament. Nothing, substantial. They would basically just have, some kids come in, and you could sit down at a table, and you could play some free play with your friends, and that was pretty much it. And so, my dad took me up there a few days, and I sat down with a bunch of kids I didn't even know, and, it was hard finding other kids in the neighborhood that knew how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It was basically just me and my friend Clifford growing up in this tiny little mountain village. But, when my dad took me to the mall, Saturday mornings, I could actually, talk to other people that loved the game. So we did that. And it was a lot of fun. And so the first lockdown I ever learned was not, in fact, the Yata lock. It was another lockdown involving Tsukuyomi, the spirit monster. Is anyone aware of this lockdown? The Tsukuyomi Time Seal Mask of Darkness Gambit. Allow me to tell you, this is going to be a little bit of a bonus. Okay, so, I don't know. I guess I really just like this lockdown because it involves Time Seal. Time Seal was always kind of one of my, favorite trap cards, just because of the design, the name is cool, and it has a really simple effect. You activate the trap card, your opponent skips the draw phase of his or her next turn. There you go. Pretty basic. And I know I used it in my deck a lot, but it was really nothing more than just something to buy time in a lot of players' eyes. Oh, okay, your opponent skips their next draw phase, so especially if they have no cards in their hand, then you could buy time and maybe figure out something to do if you're in a tight spot, sure. But as with anything, you figure out a way to make that into a game-breaking mechanic. And that's the reason this is now forbidden. So anyway, here's how this basically goes. Mask of Darkness is essentially a trap version of Magician of Faith. These two cards are basically the opposites, and lo and behold, they're both forbidden. So Magician of Faith, when flipped face up, allows you to target a magic card in your graveyard and bring it back to your hand. Mask of Darkness, flip face up, targets a trap card in your graveyard and brings it back to your hand. Okay? So, here's how you basically have to do it. It might actually even take longer than one turn to set it up, so that's why it's not, as famous as YATA Lock, but I like it. Alright, so the first thing you gotta do is you gotta get Time Seal set on your side of the field. Alright, you get that out there, and you can also, normal set Mask of Darkness, your side of the field, that turn as well, but once again, you better have something else to kind of protect you there, at least have a Sword of Revealing Light, something out to stall your opponent so they just don't immediately destroy Mask of Darkness, okay? Because you gotta activate Time Seal first in order for this to work, and you need Mask of Darkness to keep bringing it back, okay? So here's what you do. You set those two cards on the field, and then your opponent does their turn, whatever, and then you manage to, either during their turn or coming back to your turn for something, you have to activate Time Seal, which restricts them from drawing on their next draw phase. Okay, this card is used up, goes into your graveyard. Then, when it comes back to your turn, you flip Mask of Darkness face up, take Time Seal out of your graveyard, add it back to your hand. Then you play Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi's effect. Cannot be special summoned. Yeah, that doesn't matter. This card returns to the owner's hand at the end phase. Standard spirit bullshit. And then, when this card is normal summoned or flip face up, select one face up monster on the field and flip it into face down defense position. So, you play Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi's effect, take Mask of Darkness, flip it back and down into the set position. Alright. Now, also, in order to make this work, I'm just adding on all the stuff that makes this a problematic. I didn't say it was the perfect lockdown. I just said it was my favorite, okay? It would also work really well if your opponent already does not have anything on their side of the field or in their hand. Alright, because if they play something to destroy Tsukuyomi, to destroy Mask of Darkness, you're screwed, okay? So, let's just assume that's the case. There's nothing on your opponent's side of the field, nothing in their hand, and this is going down, then the lock is complete. Because their turn's going to happen, Time Seal's effect, they can't draw, and then it comes back to you, you activate Time Seal again, flip Mask of Darkness face up, take Time Seal back into your hand, play Tsukuyomi again, then at the end phase it returns to your hand, and blah blah blah, and you see where that's going from there. So, a lot more what-ifs and a lot more support cards you're going to need for this lockdown, but considering it also involved a spirit monster, I wanted to bring it up because it is my personal favorite. Okay. And for me, personally, when I read about the YATA lock, and when I heard about the Tsukuyomi lockdown and everything, that was like a moment where boys become men. Or nerdy kids that love Yu-Gi-Oh! Become nerdy men that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay? Because I'm growing up with the anime. I'm growing up with Yugi's Heart of the Cards bullshit. I thought, that's how duels were. Because once again, I didn't have a lot of friends in the neighborhood to play with. So I thought... In fact, I remember doing this, because in the anime, they talk to each other, and they monologue, and they go on and on and on about how their cards are awesome. I remember my friend Clifford, he played Yu-Gi-Oh! Too. He wasn't as into the anime as I was, though. He just played the card game. So I remember going over to a birthday party he had once, and, he loved Yu-Gi-Oh!, so all of his friends were there, and they had Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and we were dueling, and I kept doing that, like, aha! I now summon the Dark Magician Girl! Wahaha! With this card, I can activate it by channeling the 300 attack from all the magicians in my graveyard. Meanwhile, my opponent is just like, Matt, I know what the card does. Can we keep this moving? Can we keep this chugging along here? I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So that's how I thought duels were supposed to be. And then the YATA lock happens, and I'm like, but that's not fair. That's broken. That's not fun. Who would do that? Because I'm like, yeah, you could do that, but your opponent can't even fight back at that point. What's the fun of dueling? And it's really the funniest thing. When I was a kid, whenever Yugi was spouting on about the Heart of the Cards, I thought it was ridiculous. It was silly, it was goofy, it was just a way for the anime to justify Yugi pulling out the God cards whenever he needed it, or them inventing a brand new card that Yugi never uses again after that, just for that one occasion. And I thought it was silly and ridiculous. But as I grew up, and as I stopped Yu-Gi-Oh! For a little bit, then got back into it, I can tell you what the Heart of the Cards really is. Do you want to know? Because I can tell you. It's having fun playing the game. So there's a way to play the game that's fun, and then there's a way to play the game that's, efficient. The meta, as I think a lot of competitive players would say. you know, there's playing with the cards that are a lot of fun to play with, like my Six Samurais. Like, take that deck, for instance, my Six Samurai deck, okay? You know? Yes, I drew the symbol on the deck box. Of course I did. You know why? Because I like to have fun. Alright? Six Sammies, right? I like it. It's a cool deck. Gateway of the Six is unbanned. But you don't actually put all Six Samurais in the Six Sammy deck. Any competitive player that ever ran this deck will tell you that. You don't actually put all the Six Samurai in the deck. That would be stupid. That would weigh you down, because not all of their effects are really all that great. But that's the competitive way of looking at it. But I'm like, but they're the Six Samurai. They're the Six Samurai. They are blood brothers. They were raised on the battlefield. They fight together, damn it! And so I put all six in my deck. Is this a competitive deck? No fucking way. But I have fun. And that, my friends, is the heart of the cards. I'll see you next time when we'll talk about, I don't know. Actually, you tell me what I'm going to talk about next. In the comments below, they add something. I don't know, Exodia, Crush Card Virus, the God Cards, an anime episode, that time Yugi used, you know, the giant soldier of stone to strike the freaking moon. Whatever you want. I'm at your beck and call. I burped just now, but it's the end of the episode, so I don't even care. Have a great night, everybody. Tekking101, signing out.